Alright, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I am back, and it is time for another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 replay cast. Today, it is not just going to be our usual one-off game. We are going to be doing a high-level best of 3, some of the highest of the levels of the best of 3s. It is going to be INnoVation. For those of you unaware, one of the greatest Starcraft 2 Terran players of all time, taking on one of the greatest Starcraft 2 Protoss players, if not the greatest. It's Stats. INnoVation and Stats are kind of just like counterparts with how good they are, how consistent they are for the most part. I'd say Stats is a little bit more consistent than INnoVation, as INnoVation sometimes will bomb out of tournaments, but he also wins a lot of tournaments, so I think people forgive that a fair bit. So INnoVation, just an absolute monster when it comes to his timing pushes, things like that. When I think of INnoVation, I think of like a 2-2 bio siege tank push, which I have tried to replicate, but not super successfully. And then we have Stats. I think of just perfect defense, macroing up, but then also having just enough lethality in his play. If you mess with Stats or give him an opening, he will just turn around and kill you. He is a monster. Not really, I'm sure he's a perfectly nice fellow, but you get what I mean. Anyway, so this is a full-on best of 3. We're going to be casting 2 games at least in this video. And if it goes to 3 games, it goes to 3 games. So, we have got ourselves a Cyber Core on the way first for Stats. Just the safer option when it comes to getting out, like, your, say, first Reaper or your first Adept or first Stalker, pardon me, to then help defend with the Reaper. Personally, when I play Protoss, this is a build I'll go for a fair bit, as I do have a tough time microing against that Reaper. So it is the safer option. INnoVation going for a Marine behind this, Factory on the way, everything normal. And then the Reaper's just going to cross the map. But look at this, the Adept is almost out. Getting Chrono boosted out, the probes are safely in the main base, the Adept will pop out. The Reaper for INnoVation will go, aw, there's nothing for me to kill here. Alright, so the map is Nightshade for game number 1. We see Stats making good use of this, walling the high ground, Adept at the front, in order to ensure the Reaper can't easily sneak by. The Adept Shades sees that Reaper trying to do just that. INnoVation already behind this, though, has a bunker, so he's a man after my own heart. If you play TVP and you don't get an early bunker, I'm gonna say it, I think you're a fool. You're either way too good at StarCraft that somehow you win TVP without getting an early bunker, or you probably lose a lot of games because you don't defend versus simple Protoss timings that were just, not so much as of late, but in the past, were just massacring Terrans. By those pushes, I mean, of course, just like, say, like 3 Stalkers with an early Adept that crosses the map and delays the CC, delays the bunker. Like, those pushes were messing Terrans up for a while, and then all the Terrans were like, hey, you know what's great? An early bunker to defend that. And pretty much every Terran does it these days, no matter who you are. Stats, he's getting up his second gateway, getting up his Robo. Blink is on the way. He's essentially just going to be going for a relatively nicely timed third base. A grenade gets tossed down by INnoVation to let this Reaper and Hellion into the base, but it is just that, one Reaper and a Hellion. I don't know how much damage they'll be able to get done. Maybe a couple of probes to at least pay for themselves. Looks like the answer is 2 probes for a Reaper and a Hellion. INnoVation gets in, he gets the scout off. Everything is normal. We should be seeing that third for Stats. There we go, a 4-minute third base. Beautiful Protoss builds. Absolutely beautiful. Have very well timed third bases in my opinion. Then they defend versus any other aggression coming your way. INnoVation is going to be going for a Widowmine drop. I'm going to be unloading in the main base or the natural of Stats. And then a Raven, a third CC on the way for INnoVation as well behind this. You gotta have playing 3CC in your arsenal these days, as Terran macro has just got better and better. Stats accidentally traps his probe in with his double forge. INnoVation will see the double forge, which is a nice scout for him, as it just kind of reveals the way the Protoss player is playing. Speaking of revealing how your opponent's playing, Stats gets a Phoenix into the natural base of his opponent. A hallucinated Phoenix, of course. And then just, yeah, the game's going to progress on from here. Charge is on the way for Stats, an absolutely necessary upgrade for the Protoss player. Just allows you to have that muscle in order to defend versus early pushes and things like that. All the while double eBay on the way for INnoVation, so gonna have his own 2-2 upgrades on the way. This is a very respectful TVP for match number 1 between these players. INnoVation has been kind of wanting to harass a little bit because you have that itch at the back of your head as a Terran that you want to be harassing the Protoss nonstop, but it's also very mature of INnoVation to be like, you know what? If I boosted in with this Medivac in these mines, I guarantee you Stats is waiting. And Stats is waiting here with these Blink Stalkers. The Raven is going to head towards the back of the third base, head towards the main base. Stats, however, caught wind of this. He warped in a few Stalkers. So we'll see if the Raven's is able to get anything done, though. Auto turret goes down. The Raven might get just one probe kill. Fast reaction from Stats. Usually they get like 2 kills at least. The Raven does have another auto turret. However, it is just hanging out here. And Stalkers are in position, ready to block it. So far, great defense here from Stats. Just not a single probe, or literally just a single probe went down to that Raven. And yeah, he's just playing pretty darn well here. Probe pull to counteract the Widowmine drop. INnoVation targets one of the Stalkers, but the Stalker blinks away. So Stats actually only losing 1 worker to that. Third base is up for INnoVation and gets scouted, but I am pretty confident in the position for Stats. As far as an opening goes, this is just about as good as it gets. INnoVation, of course, still has the opportunity to be aggressive here because he's on 5 barracks now. He's going to have a 1-1 timing against Stats 1-1. He'll have Stim Bio, Widowmines, all that jazz. So there is potential for INnoVation to get a good move off, particularly if he brings this Raven around to help out. I believe he brought that other Medivac home as well, which is important to join up with the push. We are going to see INnoVation head towards Stats' base. Is Stats ready for this? His 1-1 just finished up. He's got a couple of sentries that can force field the ramp if INnoVation pushes up it, but INnoVation, he's pulling the boys. He's just going to be going for the kill. This is a do or die from the Terran player. He's playing 3CC, but he does not want to play a long game. INnoVation is just going to have to push on into Stats. There's an observer right over his army, so Stats knows about this. Stats is going to have time to prepare for this, but does he simply have the army? INnoVation goes up the ramp. Force fields get tossed down as expected by Stats, so INnoVation is going to try poking in towards the third base, which I think is a must. Anti-armor missile goes down, though. The Widowmines get force fielded off, sectioned, and killed. However, INnoVation still has a lot of units. He's got a lot of bio. He's got 1-1. There's not a lot for Stats. Stats built a ton of shield batteries at his natural, but INnoVation is fighting at the third. Stats' army is covered in that anti-armor missile, so his units are much weaker than they should be. And I think INnoVation might just push forward and kill, doing a similar timing push to what he's been doing since like 2012. INnoVation just shows his prowess in this matchup, and Stats is dead. The Immortal doesn't make it to the shield batteries in time. There is a plethora of shield batteries here for Stats, but they get unpowered. The Stalkers will melt under the bio anyway. Stats, yeah, he's just gonna die here. Too much bio for INnoVation. GG gets called, and game number 1 goes to the Terran player. Here we are into the next match, INnoVation versus Stats. In that last match, INnoVation showed us a beautiful timing attack. It really was. Just to kill Stats, to attack. It wouldn't have worked maybe on other maps, but on... Gosh, the name honestly already escapes me. Don't cast while you just woke up before work, ladies and gentlemen, or you will forget. Nightshade, I believe, was the map name. Yeah, I mean, that map, it's got a wide open third base. So, and it's got the ramp at the natural, so we saw INnoVation poke the natural, then he poked into the third because Stats used some of his force fields. It was the next logical path. And yeah, just I love the choice for INnoVation to do that kind of build. If it's a build that you can do, or that you learn, it will definitely get you some wins in TVP as a Terran, I believe. Now, let me just adjust that scoreboard so the sides are right. Stats currently down 0-1, INnoVation up 1-0. But, I mean, Stats is such a good Protoss player. He's maybe falling off a little bit. And I know that some of you Stats fans may be like, no, he's not. I'm sorry, Stats fans, but you gotta face the truth. All Koreans virtually have to do mandatory military service, which basically means that Stats is going to have to... Stats is going to have to go do that soon, so I think he's losing a little bit of his drive to practice. He's already had such a good run up to before he goes into the military service. We'll see if he's going to try and like pull out another win or something like that, but apparently he hasn't been practicing as much. I think I saw that on like Reddit or Twitter or his stream or something, that that was maybe why Stats was not doing quite as well, let's say at like IEM or whatever I think it was. However, he's still just such a strong Protoss player. This is a guy who could come back after 2 years of not playing and probably still beat me like 99-0. He's just that good. Now, let's take a look here. Adept on the way for Stats once again. A very similar opening. INnoVation, just doing a standard opening as before. Marine follow-up to the Reaper. These guys have their bread and butter, and they like it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't get a chance to say it just yet, but you guys have been blowing it away with the support for just even the non-like Alpha Star videos on the channel, like Rainer versus, I think it was Clem, or Rainer versus Euthermal, got over 100 likes, which is amazing as someone who's been working away at casting Starcraft 2 pro games for like years at this point. It's great to see. Thank you so much. Let's let's try and hit 100 likes on this video. If we can do that, that would be absolutely insane. I know sometimes we have our meme goal, but let's try and do it. All right. Stalker is on the way here for Stats. A standard, just Adept, Stalker. Stalker INnoVation leaves a question mark as his Reaper gets picked off by the Adept. That is not a good start. Stats, yeah, just showing persistence. Pursued that Reaper down, hunted it down, killed it like an antelope. Maddox translating in chat for us there, saying Stats says yum as he killed that Reaper. And honestly, if you ever play Protoss or Zerg and you grab a Terran's Reaper, it's just like, nice. That was yummy. That was yummy indeed. Now, Blink is on the way for Stats. A very, very similar opening to what he went for before. This is his bread and butter. And ladies and gentlemen, INnoVation and Stats are probably the two best players to show if you want to learn consistent StarCraft 2 builds. Like that timing from INnoVation, the Blink opening from Stats, he'll probably get a 4-minute third base again. By the way, these things sometimes like start spinning when there's a Nexus on them. But I believe it was when a Zerg is building a hatchery on it. You can actually see like the icon spinning, which is really cool. But apparently not when a Protoss does it. Now, Robo on the way here for Stats. He's going to have the Blink done. He's going to play defensive. Cinnamon Spice and everything nice. This time INnoVation moving out with a try Widowmine drop. We'll see how well Stats shuts this down, but as he's already got a pylon in the path to intercept this, he's going to have probably units in position at his natural. Currently they're waiting in his main base, but when they fly over this pylon, this will give Stats the, gotta get in position for this. Stats is moving. He doesn't have Blink quite yet, so INnoVation could go for this drop, but man, this is risky. This is a lot of Stalkers, and INnoVation indeed pulls back. You do not want to lose that Medivac full of Widow Mines and get nothing done. Stats all the while sending out a hallucinated Phoenix, wanting to scout out what INnoVation is going for, see whether it's a 3-Rax, which it indeed is. Okay, double Forge on the way for Stats behind this. Just, yeah, completely normal play here from the Protoss player, and I really do like his choice of play. Stats wants to get this Medivac. He sees it here taunting him. But as INnoVation, what can you really do? +1 attack is on the way here for Stats. There's the armor started too. INnoVation already has this +1 on the way because he's going for a 1-1, because he's going for a 3-Rax timing. Whereas in the previous game, he got his own 1-1. He's going to be hitting earlier than he did in the previous match. However, he's going to be much more committed. This is why we see Stats just going right into a ton of gateways. So he's going to be able to warp in plenty of units. I wouldn't be surprised to see him dump in Chrono Boost into his Twilight Council, as he needs to have that. Getting up a cannon, getting up a shield battery at the third. Stats is preparing for this inevitable attack that'll come from INnoVation. There's the Immortal on the way. It's important to keep an eye on charge, because that's what Stats is going to really rely on to have the muscle to push back and attack like this. We're going to be seeing INnoVation will be pushing towards that third base Photon Cannon getting up at that third. All of a sudden, the Terran's going to be marching forward. But I think Stats, I mean, he really anticipated this. He, of course, is keeping an eye on this potential Widowmine drop. But seeing as how INnoVation has sentries, he's got a shield battery, a cannon, zealots to buffer, he's going to be completely fine. As these extra gateways come online, he's going to be able to bolster his army just massively with warpins of zealots. And yeah, I mean, this is just a pretty darn good spot for Stats. If we take a look at the real finesse of his play, he's got an observer here. He's got his adept still active out on the map, looking for drops and things, looking for plays by the Terran. We see Stalkers and Zealots are in the main base, anticipating a drop. Stats is such a good Protoss player at defending in StarCraft 2. And if you can successfully defend 99% of attacks, I would wager you'd win 99% of games. So we see INnoVation drops in the main base. But look at this. Stats already picks off one of the medivacs. The strong Zealots buffering here. They eat the Widowmine shots, a couple more being warped in, and the drop gets completely shut down. INnoVation is going to push towards the third, but a couple of force fields can buy time for Stats to reinforce this. Stats is also moving out on the map with his Warp Prism. Stats read INnoVation like a book and is currently in a very good spot. INnoVation, he wants to make something happen this game, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to. He's fighting against these Zealots, but even if Stats takes a poor trade, I think it's still going to be an alright one for him. I think he got a couple of units there, maybe a Widowmine or two. I'd like to see INnoVation throw up a Ghost Academy sooner rather than later, as EMP against the kind of Zealot Immortal Sentry composition is great for Terran. But man, Stats' army is just looking so strong, as is. Zealots are hitting INnoVation's third base. Units are coming in to reinforce against this. But if we take a look, Stats is also going to the main base with the Prism. INnoVation is going to drop in the main. Stats may just recall to deal with this. No, he's just going to wander these units back. So there's a chance that Stats will take some nasty damage, but INnoVation could very well take some more here. Stats unloads at the natural. He's doing a good job juggling with his Prism. All the while, if we take a look, Stats loses his main Nexus, which is quite painful. Can INnoVation get out with these units? I'd say this is going to dictate whether this was a good move or a bad one for INnoVation. He's losing SCVs, he's trading out against the Stalkers, but he will lose this big chunk of his army. He's still up on army supply, though. He's just got to deal with this Prism. INnoVation now is out a couple of Liberators, which should be enough. Whoa, Liberators. INnoVation should be able to shut this down with relative ease. Stats recalls the Prism, though. Great move by him. INnoVation showing a lot of patience. Still has this drop waiting at Stats base. This Medivac just chilling out. INnoVation, I think, accidentally pulled that out, but then he puts that back right away. INnoVation producing units non-stop. Stats, however, is getting into 2-2. We never saw a Ghost Academy get up for INnoVation, which I think is what you need to make to overcome a Protoss with a 2-2 advantage, as EMP is really good. For now, INnoVation, though, he's just going to have to get a good drop-off, defend the Protoss's drop, if he's going to want to win this game. But, yeah, I mean, I am seeing a great play here from Stats. He's going to have 2-2. He's getting up a fourth base. There's the Prism in the main base once again. More Zealots. A Widowmine hits the Prism, which is nice. I did not see that one for INnoVation. However, everything INnoVation has is across the map. I wouldn't even be surprised to see him pull the boys in this situation, but it's just like sort of haphazardly that INnoVation's doing this. Pulling a few of the boys. He loses a Medivac, though, to the Stalkers. I don't think INnoVation can make it up this ramp. You cannot try and go up this ramp. There's going to be force fields. You will not stand a chance. I think INnoVation will have to hit the third or something. Liberators will allow him to actually get up this ramp, as I mean, Liberators zone out the sentries. But if we take a look, more units are being warped into INnoVation's main base. He's lost more and more workers. He's had to pull units away from the attack. He can try this, but there's Archons, there's Immortals, there's a good number of Stalkers. They've got superior upgrades. INnoVation having to pull his reinforcements back and forth is not... I don't know, maybe he can break Stats. It's going to be tough, though. Stats' army is looking more thin. He's getting out more sentries. He's getting out, his sentries are running low on energy. He's got the Immortals, though, still. He has lost 2 of his Archons, but he's still going to take this fight. Good force fields go down. Lots of INnoVation's units in the back not firing. However, there is tons of Widowmines here for INnoVation still to get some good shots off. However, it looks like the Protoss player with Zealots in the main base of INnoVation has really cut down on the reinforcements. The Liberators are dealing tons of damage, along with the Widowmines, just mass amounts of damage, but Stats will still manage to push INnoVation back, and that may have been all that he needed. If we take a look, the Supply is in the lead for Stats, and INnoVation is not going to win 2-0 in this series. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to game number 3 of this series. Boy, am I ever glad I chose to cast INnoVation versus Stats. It really is a no-brainer when you see these two guys in a series, just to click on it. Just like, yeah, it's INnoVation and the Stats. Oh, man, and what a last game that was. Stats showing us great Protoss play. I mean, INnoVation really put up a fight getting that drop into the main base, producing non-stop. I mean, he did a pretty good job shutting down the Prism for the most part, till the end there. But, yeah, in the end, Stats just won out. INnoVation almost made that push work, too. Like, that was closer than it looked, I feel. We'll see how the next game's going to go. Are the players just going to choose similar builds and nothing extreme from either player? I think if you're going to get a standard TVP or PVT, whatever way you look at it, Stats and INnoVation are probably the two that you'd pick. As a lot of the other players might have like a little bit of flair, a little bit more cheese, or I'm not going to say gimmick, but less standardness. As INnoVation and Stats are probably the two players of their race that just have like standard timing pushes. I'd say INnoVation more on the push side, whereas Stats more on the defensive side. I'd say if Stats was to be rivaled by a Protoss on the defensive side, it maybe would have been... I mean, Classic's retired. He was really good at it. Trap, I'd say, is one of the better Protoss at it. But a lot of the other Protoss get their edge from like being aggressive. Like I'd say off the top of my head, Zest comes to mind. He gets a lot more of his wins from being the aggressive player, not the defensive one. Another player off the top of my head, back in the day, this is quite a bit of a throwback. Rain was one of the Protoss players who made the game look incredibly frustrating for Terran and Zerg back in the day, just because he'd always play defensive, and players would never be able to break him. Of course, definitely a different era, and I think it was a little bit easier to turtle back then as Protoss, but Stats still does a pretty good job playing defensive and checking all the boxes these days. Okay, INnoVation just doing the same build here. Going to be having his factory on the way. Marine after. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, says INnoVation. Protoss players are not usually a fan of this map, Eternal Empire here, as it's just got a lot of choke points. It's got a lot of room that Terran can push on in. It's not super long. It doesn't have super long distance, so it generally is considered a good map here for Terran. I've played against Protoss who say they do not like this map one bit. INnoVation, by the way, picks off that probe with his Reaper. Quite a nice start there. Stats goes for a Twilight Council. There we go. Probes on the way, just being made by Stats. Chrono boosting them out. Stalker, probably going to be Blink. Most definitely going to be Blink, I'd say. And then, yeah, INnoVation just getting up a starport. We'll see what he's going to go for behind this, whether he'll go for like a siege tank or something, or whether it'll just be a Widow Mine. This could be for a Raven on the starport or a Banshee. It's really tough to say. We do see that factory lift off, though. And so that means that the starport will be making use of the tech lab. Blink is on the way here for Stats. INnoVation is going for a Cloak Banshee. Of course, this is a little bit risky against someone like Stats, as Stats pretty much always goes Blink into Robo, which in theory counters Banshees pretty darn well. The Sentry has also just been warped in. It's going to start building up energy for that hallucination. Oh, that's neat. I never knew you could actually like click on abilities and things there. Look at that. I can actually click the force field button, and it shows things. Wow, you learn something new every day. I never knew that. I can click the hallucination and it pulls up some of the hallucinations. Not all of them, because there obviously isn't room there, but you learn something new every day about StarCraft 2. Now let's take a look. Cloak on the way here for INnoVation. A factory producing a siege tank. Tank's very good defensively. We see INnoVation really posturing with his Marines. Players have been getting better and better at shutting down Hallucinated Phoenix. Stats flies on in, and he actually micros the Hallucinated Phoenix. Starcraft 2 is evolving every single day. Yeah, Stats micros this Hallucinated Phoenix. He does get in, and he actually sees the Cloaked Banshee, which is a huge deal for the Protoss player. Stats, he's got an Observer on the way. The Banshee has Cloak, but there's already an actual Observer there. A second Observer is out. INnoVation, I mean, Stats was ready for it just off the base of his build, but getting that little bit of a heads up was huge for him. Now, INnoVation is going to be pushing Stats after this, though. Going to be using the Banshees in the assault, most likely. He's going to be crossing the map with Marines, the tanks, a couple of SCVs to build some bunkers. INnoVation is going to get intercepted by Stats, so he may have to siege this tank to repel these Stalkers, and he will. This is drastically going to slow down the push of INnoVation, and buy Stats a lot of time, which is... This is really, really good here for INnoVation. Or really, really, really good here for Stats. INnoVation, not so much. Not so much. Third command center is done for INnoVation, so he's not all in by any means, which is redeeming for him because this push will not work. INnoVation sieges up the tank. Stats, such a hunter, already on the way after this. He's going to blink after, and oh my gosh, he's going to get one of the siege tanks. Is he going to get the second? No, INnoVation at least saves that. INnoVation might want to toss down a grenade with his Reaper, but oh man, this is actually so painful for INnoVation. Losing one tank, he might lose a second. He sieges one of the tanks. Stats blinks into that. He focuses down one, but as he's brought an Immortal with this is actually like a really good trade here. For Stats, he gets 3 siege tanks, 2 or 3 siege tanks, 2 tanks, 17 Marines on the retreat. And INnoVation's push was dealt with perfectly. A couple of Banshees were in the main base. Stats recalled to deal with these, which is a nice move for INnoVation. Stats could have maybe held his ground there a little bit or something and kept the pressure going, but INnoVation does get towards his third base. The Banshees in the main base looks like they got a little bit of damage done. 8 probes in all have gone down, but the final Banshee gets picked off. Or there is one more somewhere, I want to say. Yeah, one more Banshee just hanging out. Just doing its thing while INnoVation gets up his third base. A turret at the tip of this location. There'll probably be another, yeah, the good old 1-2 combo to ward away the Warp Prism. Okay, Stalker's going to be crossing the map here. Stats, he's got a Warp Prism. He's going to be loading this with Zealots, warping in even more and more Zealots. There's the potential for a big 1-1 charge timing with the Blink Stalkers here for Stats. I think it's a little bit ambitious. INnoVation actually spots this with his Banshee, so he has a heads up. He can burrow his mines ahead of time, which is a big important part of this. But INnoVation, while having Stim, does not have Combat Shield yet. He does not have one widen yet. Stats is going to hit a nasty timing. If INnoVation can buy like 10 seconds, his army will be much better to fight this. The Widowmine's buying a little bit of time. Combat Shield is not yet done, though. We take a look. INnoVation, he's running away with the SCVs. Stats is coming in for this push. More and more units have been made for INnoVation. Widowmine's dealing friendly fire to INnoVation's own army, though. He does have his 1-1 finished up, which is great for him. He doesn't have a... I mean, he just doesn't have that much supply, it would seem. INnoVation taking a bit of a beating here. It looks like there's a bit of counter damage getting done by the Banshee, but the shield battery defends this location. Stats retreats in the end. But Stats starts his +2 attack, INnoVation starts his +2 attack. INnoVation has had his economy notably delayed here by having to lift off that third CC. A good start here for Stats, just showing us how good in PvT he really is. Stats is going to be crossing the map with another observer. He's very good at ensuring he always has vision. A probe's going to move out, take the 4th base. Stats wants to get that location up. He's already got himself a good army supply. He's getting up Psystorm. As he completed researching the Psystorm, he's already got a couple of High Templar, or 4 High Templar in the Prism. We see INnoVation getting up a Ghost Academy, which I do like to see in TVP more and more these days. The Enhanced Shockwave was such a smart patch for Blizzard, I feel, to make a unit that was arguably a pretty I mean, I don't know if you could say a pretty weak spellcaster, but the Ghost was a pretty weak spellcaster compared to the others anyway. But having it changed, Terrans have just been using EMP left, right, and center. It's made Terran more viable in the late game. I mean, of course, Protoss players can have a bit of a tough time with that. However, it really has developed the matchup a lot. Protoss players have really adjusted just by always having their Templar in the Prism. Stats does have to be careful here, though, by not losing this Prism, as it's already lost a lot of HP. All it takes is an EMP and then like one A-click or something on that Prism to pick it off. So you got to be careful about that of your stats. INnoVation, he's really trying to anticipate this push, get his units into position. His stats is looking to move on in. If he can find a window, he'll take it. High Templar moving in, dropping Psystorm. There's going to be more where that came from. The Ghosts are here for INnoVation. Can they land the EMP they need, though? There is an enhanced shockwave yet. The Vikings are here to help zone out the Prism, which I think is very important. However, if we take a look at this, Stats is going into the double Colossus transition behind this, and I love this play here for Stats. Going into Colossus, I'd say, not even at the beginning of the game, but say, like, past the first tech choice is so good. Because right now INnoVation's thinking about dealing with High Templar. He's not thinking that double Colossus are going to be here. And all of a sudden, 2 Colossus in the army is huge. 4 Colossus, if there's no Vikings, is just game ending for the Terran. INnoVation, he's going to move out on the map. He's got a couple of Vikings. He's got his Ghosts. He's got to be careful not to lose any units running them into these Stalkers. A scan goes down for INnoVation, but as we take a look here, Stats, pardon me. Don't know why I said Zest. It's already planning a big counterattack. This is 14 Zealots here, I want to say, that are going to push on into INnoVation's base, and INnoVation is so far out of position, he just has to abandon the location. He was trying to get up a third base, but it's not going to happen, and the amount of bio you need to clean up this many Zealots is just astronomical. INnoVation's SCVs are going to buffer. They're going to die. There is 2 Colossus out. There's High Templar. I don't think this push is going to work for INnoVation. He can try. He eats nasty Psystorms on the ramp. Stats is going to massacre INnoVation here, forcing his hand to push on in, and GG gets called as Stats takes the 2-1 against INnoVation. A massive Zealot counterattack that there was no way INnoVation could recover from this, and then INnoVation just getting impatient going for the attack. I mean, Stats with the Colossus really just punished INnoVation there. Only 2 Vikings. The High Templar getting beautiful Psystorms on the ramp. INnoVation kind of just got checked, decked, and wrecked there. That's the way you sum up Stats play. Like, INnoVation, I mean, he just went for pretty much his standard builds. It worked in game number 1, but game number 2 and 3, Stats was like, nope, I'm ready for this. I'm ready. And he defended, yeah, pretty much just perfectly, and then he set the tempo of the game, and then he won from there. Yeah, well played by Stats. Ladies and gentlemen, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are not. If you want to join the Discord, the link to that is in the description of every video. And of course, big thanks to those of you that support the channel via the YouTube membership program. It does go a long way to buying me Subway every day. But yeah, jokes aside, I'll see you next time. This has been LaughNgamez.